in the desolate outskirts of a decaying Ohio town, where abandoned cornfields clawed at the sky under a blood-red harvest moon, Emily Harper, the 32, and her 8-year-old daughter Lily pulled into the gravel driveway of their new home. The Victorian on Elm Street, inherited from Emily's grandmother, loomed like a predator, its blackened spires stabbing the dusk. Built in 1892, its warped clapboards groaned under the weight of time, and its shattered windows gaped like empty eyes. The air was heavy with the scent of damp rot, undercut by something sweeter, something wrong, like sugar left to fester. Emily, still raw from a brutal divorce, saw the house as a project, a chance to rebuild her life. Her job as a remote graphic designer gave her the flexibility to pour herself into this fixer-upper, envisioning a cozy home straight out of an HGTV episode. Lily, clutching her stuffed rabbit, Mr. Flopsy, stared up at the house, her small voice trembling. "It's the monster house, Mommy." Emily forced a smile, ruffling Lily's hair. Kids and their imaginations, she thought, though a shiver ran down her spine as she noticed the way the shadows seemed to cling to the house's edges. Reluctant to let go, it was Halloween Eve, and the wind shrieked through skeletal trees, rattling the loose shutters. They hauled boxes inside, the floorboards creaking underfoot like a chorus of complaints. The interior was a labyrinth of narrow hallways and high ceilings, every room panelled in dark walnut carved with grotesque shapes. Faces twisted in agony, mouths frozen in silent screams, vines curling into eyes that seemed to watch. Emily dismissed them as her grandmother's eccentric taste, maybe some Victorian artisan's idea of art. She hung a dollar store witch decoration in the living room, its plastic grin a weak attempt to make the place feel festive. Lily sat cross-legged on the floor, colouring furiously, her crayons scratching out pumpkins and ghosts. "Mommy, it's breathing," she said suddenly, her eyes wide as she pointed at the wall. Emily laughed, blaming the wind rattling the old windows. But the sound lingered in her ears, a low rhythmic hum, like a heartbeat pulsing through the house. She shook it off. Old houses had character, she told herself. Creaks, groans, drafts, nothing more. As night fell, the temperature plummeted, the air inside sharp and biting. Emily tucked Lily into her new bedroom upstairs, the walls there just as unsettling, the carved faces seeming to shift in the dim glow of a unicorn nightlight. "Sweet dreams, baby," she whispered, kissing Lily's forehead. Back in her own room, Emily scrolled through her phone, trying to ignore the house's noises. Pops, creaks, the occasional thud. Normal, she reasoned. Just the house settling. But as she drifted towards sleep, the hum grew louder, more distinct. It wasn't mechanical, not pipes or wind. It was alive, vibrating through the walls, a faint thrum that seemed to sync with her own pulse. She sat up, heart racing, and pressed her ear to the wall. Nothing, just silence. Then a whisper, so soft she might have imagined it. Closer, her breath caught. She yanked her ear away, staring at the carved faces. Their eyes seemed wider, their mouths more twisted. She turned on her bedside lamp, flooding the room with light, and told herself it was exhaustion. New house, new noises. That was all. The next morning, Lily was quiet at breakfast, poking at her cereal with a spoon. "The house doesn't like us," she mumbled, her eyes darting to the walls. Emily knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "It's just old, sweetie. It's got stories, that's all." But as she spoke, the hum returned, faint but insistent, like a heartbeat under the floor. Emily distracted herself by unpacking, hauling boxes to the attic. There, among dusty trunks and cobwebbed rafters, she found a leather-bound journal, its pages brittle and yellowed. It belonged to her great-grandfather, Elias Harper, dated 1910. The early entries were mundane, crop yields, town gossip, but they grew frantic. "The walls hunger," he wrote, They whisper of the buried ones. I sealed them in, but they scratch. Emily's hands trembled. Sealed them in. It sounded like madness. A ghost story born of fevered grief. She slammed the journal shut, dust clouding the air, and hurried downstairs. That afternoon, while Lily napped, Emily explored the house. Her unease growing, the carved faces seemed to follow her, their expressions shifting when she wasn't looking. In the hallway, she found a door she hadn't noticed before, half hidden behind a bookcase. It led to a narrow staircase, descending into darkness. She didn't follow it, not yet, but the air from below was cold, heavy with that sickly, sweet rot. She locked the door, her hands shaking, and hung another Halloween decoration, a paper skeleton, to cover it. By dusk, the house felt heavier, the air thick with something unspoken. Lily refused to leave her side, clutching Mr. Flopsy so tightly his seams strained. As Emily cooked dinner, the hum swelled, and the lights flickered, casting shadows that danced like figures just out of sight. She gripped the counter, telling herself it was just the house, just the wind. But deep down, she knew better. The house wasn't just old, it was awake. At midnight, Emily jolted awake, her bedroom freezing, her breath clouding in the air like fog. The hum was gone, replaced by a guttural wet chant, like voices drowned in mud. Flesh, we hunger. The words slithered from the walls, overlapping, a chorus of whispers that clawed at her mind. Her phone flickered, its screen showing static, then went black. A giggle, Lily's giggle, came from the wall beside her bed, not from Lily's room. The wall itself, heart-pounding, Emily stumbled out of bed, her bare feet stinging on the icy floorboards. She ran to Lily's room, her breath hitching as she pushed open the door. Lily was asleep, curled under her blanket, but Mr. Flopsy lay gutted on the floor, stuffing spilling like entrails across the hardwood, scratched into the headboard, in jagged, uneven letters, were the words, "We see you." Emily's stomach churned, bile rising in her throat. She scooped Lily up, the girl stirring but not waking, and ran downstairs. The front door was her goal. Get out, get to the car, drive anywhere but here. But the knob turned uselessly. The door fused to its frame like melted wax. She pounded on it, her fist bruising, but it didn't budge. The windows were worse. Her hands met glass as hard as steel, unyielding even when she grabbed a chair and swung. It bounced off, leaving not a scratch. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of raspy voices. Emily, feed us! Your blood. They came from every wall, every corner, the carved faces seeming to move, their mouths stretching into grins. Lily woke, screaming, pointing at the living room floor where shadows writhed, forming clawed hands that stretched toward them. Emily clutched her daughter, backing away as the walnut panels pulsed, oozing a black, tar-like sludge that dripped upward, defying gravity. It coated the ceiling, pulling in the corners, the stench of decay choking the air. Emily grabbed a fireplace poker from the hearth, her hands trembling but resolute. She swung at the nearest panel, the wood splintering with a sound like breaking bones. But what lay behind wasn't plaster or insulation. It was a writhing mass of sinew and bone, human remains woven into the house like mortar. Skulls stared back, their hollow sockets glowing faintly, jaws unhinging to hiss. More! More! The air thickened, pressing against her lungs, as the house shuddered violently. Floorboards splintered, revealing a pulsating fleshy mass beneath, veins throbbing as if the house were alive. The carved faces on the walls screamed, their wooden mouths stretching impossibly wide, splinters flying like spittle. Emily's heart thundered as she dragged Lily toward the kitchen, searching for another way out. The back door was sealed too, its edges melted into the frame. The whispers became screams, a deafening chorus of voices, some unfamiliar, some horribly familiar. Her ex-husband's cruel laugh, her mother's dying gasp, and Lily's voice, pleading, though Lily stood right beside her, silent but for her sobs. Emily's eyes darted to the basement door, the storm cellar their last hope. She yanked it open, the hinges screaming, and pulled Lily down the stairs. The steps were slick with black ooze, the air below colder, heavier, thick with that sickly sweet rot. Skeletal hands erupted from the walls, nails like rusted blades clawing at their clothes, snagging Emily's sweater, grazing Lily's arm. Lily's screams echoed, mixing with the voices, her grandmother's, her father's, and something ancient, guttural, chanting in a tongue that felt like knives in Emily's mind. The words weren't English, but their meaning seared into her. Feed us. Become us. She swung the poker wildly, knocking back the hands, but they kept coming, relentless, their bony fingers curling like spiders. In the basement, the single bulb flickered, casting jagged shadows. The walls throbbed, wet and warm, like the inside of a living thing. The air was suffocating, the stench of blood and decay overwhelming. Emily's legs shook, but she pushed forward, Lily clinging to her waist. The cellar door was ahead, a rusted metal slab half buried in the wall. She reached for it, but the floor rippled, a wave of wood and flesh that knocked her off balance. The whispers were everywhere now, inside her head, her bones, urging her to stay, to give in. She screamed, defiance burning through her fear, and kept moving. The house wasn't just haunted, it was hungry. In the basement, the single bulb flickered, casting jagged shadows. The walls throbbed, wet and warm, like the inside of a living thing. The air was suffocating, the stench of blood and decay overwhelming. Emily's legs shook, but she pushed forward, Lily clinging to her waist. The cellar door was ahead, a rusted metal slab half buried in the wall. She reached for it, but the floor rippled, a wave of wood and flesh that knocked her off balance. The whispers were everywhere now, inside her head, her bones, urging her to stay, to give in. She screamed, defiance burning through her fear, and kept moving. The house wasn't just haunted, it was hungry. Desperate, Emily swung the fireplace poker again, aiming for the basement walls to clear a path. The wood splintered, but each blow revealed more horror. Bones tangled in sinew, skulls with glowing eyes, their jaws snapping like traps. The house groaned, a deep guttural sound that shook the foundation, dust raining from the ceiling. The air grew thicker, pressing against Emily's chest, making every breath a struggle. The carved faces from upstairs seemed to follow them, their likenesses now etched into the basement walls, their wooden mouths stretching wider, oozing that black sludge that smelled of death. Lily sobbed, her small body trembling as she clutched Emily's hand, her nails digging into her mother's skin. The skeletal hands from the walls grew bolder, snatching at Lily's hair, tearing strips from Emily's sweater. One grazed her cheek, leaving a burning welt, and she stifled a scream to keep Lily calm. The cellar door was closed, but the floor buckled, splintering into a maw of wood and flesh, veins pulsing beneath like a heart exposed. Emily yanked Lily back, just as a tendril of bone and sinew lashed out, wrapping around her ankle. It was cold, impossibly strong, and pulled with a force that nearly dragged her down. She swung the poker, severing the tendril, but more erupted, writhing like snakes. The voices screamed louder, a cacophony of the dead, her ex-husband mocking her mother begging, and that ancient guttural chant that promised oblivion. Feed us. Your blood. The words burrowed into her skull, each syllable a stab of pain. In the dim light, a figure emerged from the shadows, not human, but a mockery, its face a patchwork of stolen skin, eyes like oil slicks that reflected nothing. The house is us, it rasped, its voice a chorus of the dead. layered and discordant. "You are home." Emily swung the poker, but it passed through the figure, which dissolved into the walls, its laughter echoing. The air grew hotter, the walls pulsing faster, as if the house were excited, ravenous. Lily screamed, pointing at the ceiling where the black sludge dripped, forming shapes, hands, faces, eyes that reached for them. Emily's vision blurred, her lungs burning, but she dragged Lily toward the cellar door, her only focus escape. The door was rusted, half fused to the frame, but Emily threw her weight against it, the poker wedged as a lever. It creaked open, revealing the night beyond, the cornfield silver under the moon. But the floor surged again, a wave of flesh and bone that knocked her to her knees. Tendrils wrapped around her legs, her waist, pulling her down. Lily clung to her, sobbing, but the house was stronger. "Run!" Emily screamed, shoving Lily toward the open door with every ounce of strength. Lily stumbled, falling through the threshold into the cornfield, the door slamming shut behind her with a deafening clang. Emily pounded on it, her fist bloody, but the metal was unyielding, the tendrils tightening, dragging her back. The basement became a void, the walls closing in, throbbing like a living organ. The skeletal hands multiplied, hundreds now, clawing at her skin, her hair, her clothes. The voices were inside her now, filling her mind with promises of rest, of joining the house forever. She fought, kicking, screaming, but the tendrils were relentless, pulling her toward the pulsating mass in the floor. Her last thought was of Lily, safe outside, running through the corn. Then the house swallowed her, the darkness absolute, the voices silent at last. Outside, Lily collapsed in the cornfield, her screams echoing until dawn. Rescuers found her hours later, curled in the dirt, incoherent, Mr. Flopsy's remains clutched in her arms. The house stood silent, its windows dark, its walls pristine, as if nothing had happened. The police searched, breaking through doors, tearing up floors, but found nothing. No bones, no blood, no sign of Emily. The basement was empty, the walls smooth concrete, the air still. But if you stood close, there was a hum, faint but unmistakable, like a heartbeat buried deep. Lily, now in foster care, doesn't speak of that night. She draws endlessly, sketches of a house with faces in the walls, mouths open, whispering. Her foster parents find the drawings unsettling, tucking them away, but they don't hear what Lily does. At night, in the quiet of her new room, she hears her mother's voice, faint and pleading, from the walls. "Lily, feed us." She doesn't sleep. She watches the walls, waiting for the carvings to appear, knowing the house is out there, its hunger unsated. The house on Elm Street stands empty, its doors locked, its windows blind, but it waits, patient, its atmosphere, a suffocating shroud of dread that clings to the soul. It watches the town, the cornfields, the roads where new families drive, unaware. It whispers to the wind, calling for the next guest. "For you." Lily stumbled through the cornfield, her bare feet bleeding, the stalks slicing her arms as she ran. The harvest moon hung low, casting her shadow long and jagged, and the air was sharp with frost and fear. Behind her, the house on Elm Street loomed, its silhouette a crouching beast, its windows glowing faintly like eyes that never blinked. She clutched the remains of Mr. Flopsy, his stuffing trailing behind her, and sobbed, her mother's final scream echoing in her mind. The cellar door had slammed shut, sealing Emily inside, and Lily had pounded on it until her hands were raw, but it wouldn't budge. Now, alone in the night, she ran, her small body trembling, the whispers still chasing her. "Lily, come back." She tripped, falling into the dirt, the corn closing around her like a cage. The hum of the house followed, a low, relentless pulse that vibrated through the ground, as if the earth itself were part of it. Lily curled into a ball, her breath hitching, and listened. The whispers were fainter now, but they were there, carried on the wind. Her mother's voice, twisted, pleading, "Feed us." She clamped her hands over her ears, tears streaming, but the sound burrowed inside her, inescapable. The cornfield rustled, though the wind had died, and shadows moved between the stalks. Shapes that weren't human, their edges too sharp, too wrong. Hours later, headlights pierced the darkness. A farmer, alerted by Lily's screams, found her curled in the field, incoherent, her eyes wide with terror. He wrapped her in a blanket, his voice gentle but urgent as he called for help. The police arrived, their flashlights cutting through the corn, and an ambulance followed, its siren a wail that seemed to anger the house. They searched the Victorian, breaking down the front door, tearing through the basement, but found nothing. No bones, no blood, no sign of Emily. The walls were smooth, the air still, the carved faces gone, or hidden. The officers exchanged uneasy glances, their radios crackling with static that sounded almost like whispers. One swore he felt the floor hum, but he didn't say it aloud. Lily was taken to a hospital, then to foster care, her silence unnerving the social workers. She didn't speak of that night, didn't answer their questions about her mother. Instead, she drew, endlessly, obsessively, on every scrap of paper she could find. Houses with faces in the walls, mouths open, eyes glowing, skulls woven into wood, dripping black sludge. Her foster parents, kind but overwhelmed, tucked the drawings away, their skin crawling at the detail, the way the faces seemed to watch. They noticed Lily never slept well, her nights spent staring at the walls of her new room, as if waiting for them to move. At night, in the quiet, she heard it, her mother's voice, faint, buried in the plaster. "Lily, feed us." She'd pull the blankets over her head, humming to drown it out, but the sound was inside her now, a splinter in her mind. She started checking the walls, running her fingers over them, searching for carvings, for cracks, for anything. Her foster parents found her once, at 3 a.m., scratching at the drywall until her nails bled. They took her to therapy, but the doctors didn't understand. They called it trauma, prescribed pills, but Lily knew better. The house wasn't done with her. Back on Elm Street, the Victorian stood empty, its for sale sign weathered and leaning. Realtors avoided it, their clients complaining of nausea, of whispers they couldn't quite hear. The neighbors kept their distance, their kids daring each other to touch the porch, but never lingering. The cornfield around it grew wilder, the stalks taller, as if guarding the house, or hiding it. At night, under the moon, the windows glowed faintly, though no one lived there. A hiker once claimed he saw movement inside, shapes behind the curtains, but the police found nothing. Just dust, just silence, just that hum if you stood too close. Lily's drawings grew darker, the faces more detailed, their mouths screaming. She hid them under her bed, afraid her foster parents would burn them. She knew the house was still out there, waiting. She saw it in her dreams, a pulsing living thing, its walls throbbing, its hunger endless. Sometimes, she woke with her hands scratched, as if she'd been clawing at something in her sleep. The voice never stopped. "Lily, you're home." And she wondered, in her quiet moments, if she'd ever truly escaped, or if the house had let her go, knowing she'd carry it with her. The house waits, its hunger unsated, its atmosphere a suffocating shroud of dread that clings to the soul. It watches the town, the roads, the new families driving by, unaware. It whispers to the wind, patient, calling for the next guest. For you.
Please like and subscribe channel Fear Frequency for more horror stories. Thank you.